Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. The big breaking news tonight is that Graham Potter has been sacked by Chelsea Football Club. It's been a mad day in the Premier League and it's been capped off tonight by Graham Potter's sacking. Chelsea announcing that they have parted ways with the manager that's only been in charge of the club for the past 7 months or so. Graham Potter is no longer in charge of Chelsea Football Club. This is the big breaking news tonight, on top of what we have already seen happen today. Early on today, we had Brendan Rodgers also be sacked by Leicester City. We'll talk more on that a little later on in the video. And also, we've got, we'll also touch upon some of the other football that happened today. West Ham, a big relegation battle down there between themselves and Southampton. West Ham came out with all 3 points in that one with a 1-0 victory there. And we also had a big game in the top 4 race as Newcastle beat Manchester United by 2-0. But it's mainly the managers that we're going to be focusing on and the dismissal of both Graham Potter and Brendan Rodgers. Where should we go? We've got to obviously talk with Graham Potter first, because this morning, obviously, I made a video on Graham Potter. Also, smash a like on the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And also get involved in the comments as well on your thoughts on this, because, again, it moved pretty quickly. Like I say, I made a video on Graham Potter this morning, and I basically said that, in my opinion, I genuinely believe that Chelsea need to stand by him a little bit longer. They need to give him a bit more time and everything. For me personally, I just don't know. I get why they did it. I get why they did it. The fans were turning very, very quickly on this. I get it. The thing that I'm baffled by is just the time anyway, because this is a manager that you brought in to be your long-term guy. This was a manager you brought in to be the guy, to be the long-term visionary for this whole entire ambitious project you've got going on. This is the guy for the long run, not for the short run. This was a guy that had to come into a team that was under like 3 different types of managers. There were players from the Lampard era, there were players from obviously the Thomas Tuchel era, and there were players from his era as he got to January and he started to add little bits and pieces here and there. And there was a lot of dead wood that he needed to clear. There was a lot of things that needed to be cleared out, a lot of things that needed to be changed to that club. And obviously the club behind the scenes was obviously going through a major turmoil, a major changeover anyway, as it was, because obviously Todd Bowley's come in and he's opening his wallet and he's splashing the cash left, right, and center, and he's going a bit crazy, and it's actually interesting to see from afar. But it just seemed that if you were going to spend that much money on this guy, surely you back him. Now, there was nothing bad, nothing terrible, shall I say, nothing drastic about Graham Potter and this Chelsea side. It wasn't like they were going to be relegated. That was going to be a step too far. Missing out on European football, I get it. It's big. But maybe you need to take a step back in order to go forward. And I think that that's probably what would have happened with Chelsea in the end. Maybe missing out on European football might have helped them out in the long run. And maybe they would have gone on to go a bit further in obviously the future, somewhere down the line. Maybe they would have gone on next season to have a better campaign with obviously not having to focus on competing on multiple different fronts. Maybe they could have just focused on the league a bit more. Maybe they could have got back into the top 4 and all that. I don't know. There just seemed to be a bit more of a bigger picture at play than what a lot of Chelsea fans were maybe seeing. I get it. It wasn't great. But like I said this morning, there are reasons to that. Graham Potter didn't have a great start at Brighton either. It took time. It took effort. It took a system to be implemented. It took players to be brought in. And that's obviously what was going to happen at Chelsea. It wasn't going to be an instantaneous success. It wasn't going to be a success story overnight. I don't really know what Chelsea fans were really expecting. I get it. It probably didn't turn out the way a lot of people anticipated. I think it was a lot worse than obviously it was a lot worse than what Chelsea fans anticipated, and probably obviously what the Chelsea board anticipated as well. But for me, I don't really understand the kind of magic wand that Graham Potter was. I know obviously his surname is Potter, and it's Harry Potter, Graham Potter. I don't understand the magic wand he was supposed to have in order to kind of change Chelsea's fortunes around instantaneously. This was a squad that at the beginning of the season was struggling under Thomas Tuchel to really seem motivated, seemingly struggling to find any kind of real consistent form. That's not changed. And I get it. He's brought in the likes of Mikael Mudryk. He's brought in Enzo Fernandez. Fernandez looks great, by the way. He's brought in João Felix as well. I get it 100%. I just feel like it was never going to be an instant success. It was obviously going to take time. It took time at Brighton. I don't understand what the overall sort of feeling from Chelsea fans was, and the fact that, was he meant to come in and instantly change things? Was he meant to instantly sort this squad out from top to bottom, instantly get rid of the deadwood all in January and bring in all fresh faces and have them gel and mold together in such a short space of time? I'm not 100% sure. Like I say, I sort of get it in the end. I get it because Chelsea are this sort of club that has been known to obviously change things pretty quickly if things don't quite go their way. That's obviously under the Roman Abramovich era. I thought under the Todd Bowley era, things might be a little different. And like I say, I thought with him being the sort of long-term project guy, I thought that might obviously take place here and that they would give him his backing no matter what. Obviously, that's not meant to be. But like I say, I'm not 100% sure on this. I get it that he wasn't exactly performing as everybody expected. I get that a lot of money has been spent. I get that obviously there was the comparisons with Mikel Arteta, and I said the comparisons with Mikel Arteta this morning, and obviously, you know, Chelsea are a lot further off than what Arsenal ever were under the early days of Mikel Arteta. I get that Graham Potter had obviously come into a side that was already top four challenging and was already working hard in that aspect. But then obviously Thomas Tuchel kind of saw the end of his run at Chelsea fall to an end because the players just didn't seem motivated and didn't seem like they wanted to play for him no more. And they were dropping points and they were dropping poor results. They looked a bit soft in key areas. And that hasn't really changed. Bringing in Graham Potter was meant to be this long-term thing. Like I say, this was meant to be a sort of project that was meant to grow stronger and stronger. Maybe you could look at recruitment in January. If you had the kind of money to spend on Enzo Fernandez, why didn't you also go out and buy a striker? That could be part of his detriment, his downfall. But I don't understand the sort of instant success that Graham Potter was seemingly instantaneously under since jumping ship from Brighton to Chelsea. It seems a bit strange to me and it seems a bit weird. I personally do not fully understand it at all. I think that he needed some time to get more players in. I think he needed time to get more players out. I think he needed to obviously rectify the club. He needed to sort of get a grip on what the club was doing behind the scenes as well as on the pitch. And I think Chelsea fans might have been a bit hasty in that aspect. Now, of course, the factor here is that might have triggered him sacking is, of course, one, Julian Nagelsmann. Now, obviously, a lot's happened at Bayern Munich as well the past couple of weeks. There's been a change of manager there. Thomas Tuchel is now taken over from Nagelsmann, who was sacked and instantly replaced by the former Chelsea manager. Will Nagelsmann go the other way? Will he go now to Chelsea? Obviously, he was allegedly being looked at and had Tottenham circling around him. Maybe in similar sort of fashion to what Bayern did with Tuchel in terms of acting quick and acting like I guess you'd say like a big club in this aspect, being ruthless and obviously snapping up in this case, better manager, I guess some people might say. I guess Chelsea might view him as a better option than Graham Potter to take them forward. And like I said this morning, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Nagelsmann was on Chelsea's radar when Todd Bowley first came in, but saw him as unobtainable because obviously he was at Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich at that time were a bigger club, and obviously they were seemingly in a project of their own with this guy, a young manager who was looking to really continue to build up his reputation with the Bundesliga club. Maybe obviously in the past couple of weeks things have changed, and they really and obviously they just decided to pull the trigger instantly there. Comments from Ballum. David Moyes would have been sacked today if he drew or lost today, I think, low-key. Possibly. Although, it's hard to say with West Ham because they're going well in the Europa Conference League, aren't they? So that could have been very interesting to see if that would have happened. I don't know if that would have necessarily been the case. Like I say, they're still going well in the Europa Conference League. A place in the Europa League, I think, isn't too far away for West Ham right now. So it could be they got a good win today. They got a very good win today. A massive relegation 6-pointer, I guess you'd say. Very good win for West Ham and David Moyes' side. And yeah, like they could finish in the bottom three and be in the Championship, but then play Europa League football for next season. I don't think a lot of people have realised that. Or they could just finish just above it and then be in the Europa League for next season, whatever the case may be. Hopefully Liverpool win on Tuesday, at least a must-win in Fulham. Yeah, well, it's typical that Liverpool are next to play Chelsea, and of course they've just sacked their manager. So very interesting to see what kind of Chelsea squad we get on that night. But yeah, typical again that Liverpool get to face. I know that Arsenal have done in the past few times, faced a new manager and a new manager bounce kind of thing. But yeah, Liverpool seem to get it a little bit more than most. Yeah, we're going to talk about Brendan Rodgers as well a little bit later in terms of him at Leicester. Roy Hodgson, the only current English manager. Yeah, there's been a lot of English managers, though, that have gone this season. You think about at the beginning when there was like Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, and yeah, obviously now Graham Potter's gone as well. It's a bit mad that we just don't seem to have any long-standing English managers. And maybe Graham Potter could have been that guy. Maybe he still can be that guy to maybe one day take a top club to maybe a Premier League title or maybe a Champions League title or something, because this is a setback. But what he did at Brighton was brilliant. What he did at Brighton to raise their level was brilliant. Maybe the Chelsea job just came at the wrong time for him, and maybe it was just too big of an opportunity for him to really pass up, which is why obviously he went and jumped ship. You look at Brighton right now, and top four is still very much on for Brighton. Top four is very much on for a Brighton side that have a couple of games in hand over the teams that are around them and are looking pretty strong right now. So maybe he's regretting jumping ship. Maybe he is. But yeah, like I was saying before, maybe maybe Julian Nagelsmann is the man to come in the summer and take over Chelsea. I just find it, like I say, I just find it a bit strange that you'd back the manager this far, you'd get these players in, and then you'd sack him. And I know things haven't gone well, but you'd sack him and then bring in another manager who might not even like or might not even see fit the players that you brought in. Maybe he doesn't like Mudryk. Maybe he might just go, not good enough, don't think he's going to be in well for this team, sell him on instantly. Maybe he goes to Enzo Fernandez. Now, Enzo Fernandez is fantastic, in my opinion, but let's say maybe he goes, doesn't fit. For one reason or other, just doesn't fit. Maybe doesn't like him, doesn't get on with him, whatever. Gets rid. That could happen. It genuinely could happen. Stranger things have obviously happened, and obviously there were just a lot of things that I'm just a bit like I say, confused about in regards to this. Yeah, and I just don't get it. Like I say, I think he just needed a bit more time to get everything together, to get this team to gel together. You think about the players that have come in before him, the Thomas Tuchel signings. I mentioned it this morning. The likes of Kalidou Koulibaly hasn't exactly gone to plan. It hasn't exactly taken to the Premier League as well as what a lot of people would hope for. The goalkeeper situation needed to be improved upon. Midfield needs to be ripped out and torn apart, ripped up, and just gone again. And then, of course, just the players up front. They lack a striker. Kai Havertz and João Felix aren't strikers, and yet they're being told to play as strikers. That's not necessarily on Graham Potter's fault. Like, they did obviously bring in a striker at the beginning of the season and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, a gamble that just didn't pay off. And obviously, a lot of things have to pay for it. And I know that's not the be-all and end-all of as to why he's been sacked today. And I know that obviously there were inconsistent performances, poor results. I 100% understand that, but I just think that maybe, just maybe, a bit more time is what he might have needed, and maybe he could have been like what Mikel Arteta was for Arsenal. I know, like I said earlier, it's slightly different. Chelsea were a lot worse off than what Arsenal were under the early days of Arteta. They spent a lot more money on it as well. He'd only managed to put together something like 7 wins in 22 games, which is very poor when you think about it. But at the same time, timing. And especially when you get rid of him right now. Like, you get rid of him right now, are you going to bring in the manager instantly to see out the rest of the season? Because let's face it, European football just seems like a long way off for Chelsea this season. It seems like it's going to be difficult to kind of rectify and to change, but we'll have to wait and see on that to see if obviously what happens with Chelsea Football Club and obviously Todd Boehly and this massive project that he's undergoing. Like I say, Julian Nagelsmann's name has been mentioned. De Zerbi at Brighton. I mean, going back to Brighton to again steal another manager. I don't know. I don't know if that's just them being a bit snappy and a bit hasty in that aspect. Maybe seeing a manager take to the Premier League so well, and we'll just have to wait and see on that one if that obviously has legs in it or anything. But yeah, it just seems strange to me that they changed everything. They changed the coaching staff. They're changing things behind the scenes to be long-term sustainable for the long-term future financially and everything. And then sack him today when he hasn't exactly implemented his system on the players. He's not got the players that he wanted or he needed in key areas. He's got a lot of dead wood there. He's got a lot of players there that he needed to get rid of. I think it's a bit hasty in terms of what Chelsea have done today. But at the same time, the fans clearly are not happy, clearly upset by it all. But I think they'll be a little bit happier tonight with the knowledge that Graham Potter has been sacked by Chelsea Football Club and will no longer be their new manager. Moving on, because this video was meant to be about Brendan Rodgers initially. Obviously, this was the big news today, other than obviously the other football results, and then obviously the Graham Potter news broke. But we're going to talk about Brendan Rodgers at Leicester. Yesterday was seemingly the final nail in the coffin as far as what Brendan Rodgers was concerned. A 2-1 defeat to Crystal Palace. Palace left it very late on in the day to obviously snatch victory in what was Roy Hodgson's first game back in charge of Crystal Palace. The curse of Roy Hodgson strikes again. And obviously it meant that Crystal Palace finally won a game in 2023. And it was a significant one for Leicester and for Brendan Rodgers because that was obviously the final game that Rodgers has taken charge of Leicester of. A long time coming, I guess you'd say. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot about Eddie Howe. Jesus, how did I forget Eddie Howe? Anyway, yes, there was a lot more English managers. My bad. Thank you for correcting me in that. I don't know why I forgot about Eddie Howe. I watched Newcastle earlier. Duh. Um, my bad. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how obviously Eddie Howe's career goes as well, and whether or not he can continue to go from strength to strength at Newcastle. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, that's really threw me off now. Anyway, as I was saying, Brendan Rodgers yesterday, final nail in the coffin. Crystal Palace won their first game in 2023, and it was a significant one because it saw the end of the reign of Brendan Rodgers as Leicester manager. Now, I guess you'd say it's a long time coming for Rodgers because, Leicester were underwhelming and underperforming last season. During his time with Leicester, it of course led the Foxes to 2 fifth-place finishes, an FA Cup, and a Community Shield. Very, very good accolades and achievements as far as what Leicester are concerned. Obviously, take away that one season which Claudio Ranieri managed to perform a miracle and obviously win them the Premier League title. But obviously, since then, it had been that Leicester were a very good side, but they just massively overperformed, and then they would just hit a little bit down to reality, and they stumbled about a little bit, and then Brendan Rodgers managed to raise their profile a little bit more and get them to that finish. The downside to those fifth place finishes was that obviously top four was well within their grasp for a large part of those seasons, but they just couldn't get over the line. And you're kind of thinking, well, maybe a bit more investment in key areas, maybe a bit more strengthening, maybe a bit of tweaking of certain things. Maybe Leicester could break through into that top four spot. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be, simply for the reason that Leicester didn't really back him, from what I could tell. Leicester didn't really give him the kind of funds to go again, to kind of refresh the squad a little bit. There are also rumours that some of their key players were having their heads turned by bigger clubs. I know that James Maddison's been brilliant this season for them, but again, like him having interest in him from the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool and Chelsea and these kinds of clubs, and Tottenham especially, and Newcastle obviously weren't, I guess, helping matters. Yuri Tielemans was another one who, of course, had a lot of interest in him, particularly last summer, and I think obviously more so this summer. I think his contract still is up at the end of the season, so obviously that's going to be interesting to see where his future lies. But I don't think there was really, I don't think there was really much in terms of financial investment from Leicester to kind of push them forward into those top four spots. And obviously, when you stagnate, it's like you're going backwards because everyone around you is, of course, building and improving, and they, of course, overtake you. So it's like when you stagnate, you just go backwards anyway. And that was obviously the case with Leicester. They were just going backwards. And it's come to this now, where they're in the relegation zone. They are under real threat of relegation, and Brendan Rodgers has left. Now, there are conflicting reports about the way that he left. Some are saying that he left by mutual consent. Some are saying that he left by his own accord. And some are saying that he was sacked. I don't know really which ones to believe. I would probably say it's between mutual consent and sacking. I don't know. It just seems a bit of a strange one, this one. Like I said, there wasn't really much financial investment. There wasn't really much improvement. And I guess that was in the kind of statement that Leicester put out in terms of why we are sacking him. We wish him the best of luck. Thank you for the memories. But there's been a lack of improvement, which is why it's time we go our separate ways kind of thing. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Leicester now, whether they manage to survive this season. Do they bring someone in instantaneously? We've, of course, seen that Crystal Palace rolled the dice earlier this month or earlier these past couple of weeks with obviously putting Roy Hodgson in charge in terms of their kind of bid towards survival. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to watch Leicester and to see if they can obviously continue to get better, or whether they can just stave off the threat of relegation and maintain their Premier League status for yet another campaign. I don't know what the plan is for the Foxes. I don't know where they go from here, but I think a lot of people would say it's been a long time coming. Leicester have gone stale, whether that's through Brendan Rodgers, his tactics, or whether that's through the lack of investment from the club. Maybe a bit of both, a little from column A, a little from column B. It'd be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Brendan Rodgers now. Maybe he goes to Tottenham. Maybe Tottenham. Maybe obviously Chelsea pulling the trigger on Graham Potter earlier this evening may see Julian Nagelsmann come in at Chelsea, which will obviously end the interest from Tottenham, and maybe Brendan Rodgers goes to Tottenham. Maybe he decides to take a break. Maybe Tottenham go for someone else. Maybe he's got another job lined up elsewhere. Maybe, I don't know, could go back to Scotland. I don't know. He's got a lot of options, I guess you'd say, because although he's not a top level manager, he's not a top class manager, he's still a manager that will play some good football and will build something. May not be for a long term. We saw it with Liverpool, and now we've seen it with Leicester. That for long term wise, he's not that great. He needs to obviously be at the short term whilst everything's fresh and everything's new, and then I don't know, maybe with more investment, maybe he could get better. But at the same time, I just think that we've just seen that long term wise, it's just not the best from him. I guess that's fair to say. Chelsea manager, highly doubtful. But yeah, maybe Tottenham. Maybe Tottenham could be a good move for him. A club that obviously is in need of a rebuild. A club that is obviously in need of some sort of stability that I guess Rodgers for the near future can probably offer them and give them. But it will be interesting to see where he goes. It'd be interesting to see what Tottenham do. It'd be interesting to see what Leicester do, what Chelsea do, and what the futures of like the likes of Graham Potter and Thomas and Brendan Rodgers and whoever else is out there that's free right now. It's a very interesting manager merry-go-round that we're kind of on right now. And it's going to be interesting to see what the future has in store for those clubs and those managers in particular. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all the breaking news that's happened today? What do you make of, obviously, Brendan Rodgers being sacked by Leicester? And, of course, the big breaking news tonight coming from Chelsea Football Club that they have sacked their manager, Graham Potter, after 7 months in charge. I'd love to know what you guys think, you feel, your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on any of these topics down below in the comment section or anywhere else. Sorry, was it? I feel sorry for you if you get Potter. He's done our club dirty. A lot of Chelsea fans feel that way. A lot of Chelsea fans do feel that way, and a lot of Chelsea fans would say that they didn't want him from the start. A lot of Chelsea fans would say this was too big of a job for him. I 100% understand where they may be coming from in terms of hindsight, I guess. I don't know. I still think that he did a great job at Brighton. And I think, like I say, I think when you're offered a job like that, regardless of the time, like this is too big of an opportunity for him to pass up. And especially for the money that was probably being offered for and obviously it was a massive contract, wasn't it? Was it a 5 or 6 year contract? Too big of an opportunity for him to pass up. And it obviously just hasn't worked out. And I guess Todd Bowley's still trying to roll the dice on this, and he's still trying to work out how things work in the Premier League and how things work managing a football club as this is. And a big one at that in Chelsea. So we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for both Chelsea, Graham Potter, Todd Bowley, whoever else I've mentioned in this video. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. I want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Bowley also another joke, man. He playing NFL, he ruined our clubs. I want Omen back. If he was back, he wouldn't let us be in this situation. Again, you'll know your club better than what I do. I can only speak about it from the outside looking in. All I'd say is it's a very, very, very ambitious project, and I know that obviously, if it works, it's going to be brilliant for Chelsea in terms of financial gain, off the pitch, and all the kind of off the pitch opportunities and everything that it will obviously open doors for as far as the club are concerned, and also on the pitch, if it works out, it will likely see you compete at a top level consistently and consecutively, rather than have these maybe dips in seasons that Chelsea have had in the past decade or alone. But we'll have to wait and see, because obviously this could entirely backfire. A lot of money is being spent. If it does backfire and backfires heavily, could be rather embarrassing. Otherwise, if it works out the way that obviously he's intending it to and he wants it to, it could be incredible for Chelsea Football Club as a whole. I support Luton too, though, so I'm glad one of my clubs doing well. Yeah, fair play. Fair play. It's all good to comment from the outside looking in, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you're new, want to see more content like this. Both things always and would be greatly appreciated. Thanks to everybody who contributed and had their say tonight. Really appreciate that as well. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks live stream. We just beat Watford, to be honest. To be fair, do you think we will go to the Prem? Very good opportunity to do so. The Championship's always mad because the playoffs in the Championship, they're mad, aren't they? Like, I get it, it's exciting. I get the excitement level behind it. I've just never liked the idea that the 6th place team has just an equal opportunity to obviously to obviously get to the Premier League. But if Luton can do it, I'm all for like new teams breaking through into that. That's why, like, obviously having Forest back this season's been exciting. I remember like when like Huddersfield got there, and even as far back as like over 10 years ago when obviously Blackpool made it, and all these other teams, and obviously when Brentford did it a few years ago. Just exciting, just very exciting. And Luton being there again, it just adds to it, and it makes it makes the Premier League the best league in the world, and it makes you intrigued to see these new teams coming through. Luton definitely could be one of those teams that makes the Premier League or adds something to the Premier League, the way that, like I say, the way that Brentford did a few years ago and has gone on to do so in the present day. The way that obviously the likes of Sheffield United and Huddersfield and even, like I say, Blackpool of many, many, many years ago did going forward. Like I say, Luton Town coming through. We'll have to obviously wait and see, because the Championship is hugely contested unless you're Burnley. But yeah, like I say, I think there'd be a welcome addition, and I think it'll be very interesting to see Luton Town in the Premier League. Maybe this season, maybe next. We'll have to wait and see. That's actually mad though. Championship is mad, bro. Middlesbrough. That could be interesting too. Michael Carrick's doing a very good job down there. I think they lost this weekend, but I think that's like their first loss in seemingly forever. So, yeah. Yeah. Middlesbrough could be dangerous. It'd be interesting to see if Michael Carrick can continue and whether he can build up his reputation. Like I say, we've seen a fair few English managers kind of try and build up in the Championship or other leagues and fail this season alone. Lampard, Gerrard. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm very intrigued to see how the Premier League and the Championship will go. That the only team I think we will struggle against, Middlesbrough against Luton final. I'm telling you now. Hey, I'm all for it. Like I say, I think the playoffs are mad. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand the excitement level that they produce and that they obviously bring to the forefront. But we'll of course have to wait and see how the rest of the season pans out. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks live stream, and I'll see you all again soon in another video or live stream.